From the halls of Montezuma, this is Sega Masters. Pretty exotic title screen for today's spotlight, which begins our look at the summer months of 1989 for Sega's 8-bit console. It took some time, but we finally have the second Master System offering from third-party publisher Parker Brothers, the US exclusive Montezuma's Revenge. Despite what the title might imply, this card has nothing to do with the stomach ailment one supposedly suffers from drinking the water in Mexico. Here you take the role of Explorer Extraordinaire Panama Joe, who's looking to amass a fortune by collecting the vast treasure lying within a series of Mesoamerican pyramids said to be the resting places of the legendary Aztec kings of the past, including the great Montezuma. Once you select your starting difficulty level, you're greeted with this text that hints at what awaits you before you descend into the pyramid to begin your quest in earnest. Of course, the deceased rulers aren't going to make it easy for intruders to just walk right in and plunder their graves. So your task was navigating a maze of up to 100 rooms, all populated by various traps, locked doors, deadly obstacles, and venomous creatures in order to reach the treasure vault at the bottom of the pyramid. You might look at these initial few moments of gameplay and think this cartridge looks and plays like an early 1980s computer title, and that's exactly what Montezuma's Revenge is. A direct port of a platformer that Parker Brothers themselves published for computers from way back in 1984. Yes, we find one of Sega's few third-party supporters pushing out a conversion of a 5-year-old computer title for the Master System, when the console was in desperate need of cartridges comparable to what Nintendo's console was offering. Especially since the summer of 1989 we're seeing the NES receive some of its most notable, if not beloved, titles. It was one of the first signs that the Master System wasn't long for the US video game market. Created by programming prodigy Robert Jager for Utopia Software, Montezuma's Revenge originally appeared on the Atari 800 platform courtesy of Parker Brothers during the company's initial foray into video gaming publishing. It is often considered one of the earliest examples of the so-called Metroidvania style of games, offering non-linear exploration with multiple paths to your goal, but also requiring a bit of backtracking and puzzle solving to truly succeed. After Montezuma did well in the Atari, Parker subsequently ported it to just about every available computer and console platform at the time, including the Atari 2600 and ColecoVision. And while it was all well and good back in 1984, by 1989 it was all but left in the distant past of video games. What led Parker to dust Montezuma off and convert it to the Master System is anyone's guess, since a 5-year-old computer title certainly wasn't going to help Sega's console in its ongoing struggle against the mighty Nintendo machine. Not only that, this Master System port is pretty much the exact same game as the original computer versions from half a decade prior. The programmers opted not to modernize Montezuma's dated gameplay, with any enhancements or features to bring it more in line with its late 1980s contemporaries. This means you won't find any of the refinements that Super Mario Bros. Or other such titles have since introduced to the platforming formula. You'll have to deal with all the quirks of a 1984 platformer as you run, jump, and climb your way through each room of the pyramid, collecting the gems for points and hunting for the artifacts essential to your success. All while trying to avoid the deadly obstacles and hostile creatures that can kill you with just a touch. Yet despite severely showing its age, the fun action and exploration that made Montezuma such a hit on computers in the first place still manages to shine in this Master System port for the most part. You're given a rather large game world to explore, and each room has plenty going on to keep your toes. A few items are available to help you survive. Most notably, the sword allows you to absorb a hit from the skulls and spiders, killing them in the process, and an amulet can render you invincible for a short period. Some inventory management is encouraged, as you can only carry up to 5 items at a time, and your full pockets will keep you from picking anything else up, including gems. You'll particularly want to keep a space open for a torch to illuminate the darkened rooms you begin to encounter on the lower floors. Not to mention all the locked doors that require the matching colored keys to open. Granted, Montezuma's old-fashioned platforming is engaging at first, yet the difficulty level can reach extreme levels at times, mainly due to how fragile Joe is. Not only does he perish from one hit, but he can't survive long falls from a few feet either, so you'll probably suffer more than a few unfair deaths. Your cause isn't helped by the controls that can feel stiff at times, especially when jumping since you can't control your leaps in mid-air, also a staple of pre-Super Mario platformers. It can be surprisingly easy to overshoot ledges when jumping or leap right into an obstacle you thought you would clear. You'd think the programmers could have at least tweaked the jumping mechanics for this version to offer more leeway, but didn't for whatever reason. On a side note, Montezuma's Revenge is one of the few carts that doesn't support the Genesis controller. You're forced to use a standard, mushy Master System gamepad, which can add to the frustration. Much like the gameplay, Parker didn't do much to update the game's presentation over the original computer versions either, with graphics and audio that pale in comparison to other Master System carts. The only real additions for this version are the title screen and the intro that shows Joe entering each pyramid. After that, it looks and sounds very much like a 5-year-old computer title. Nonetheless, the visuals are still functional, with simple yet detailed sprites sporting some smooth animation, and the textured walls and floors that change color from story to story are a noticeable upgrade over its predecessors on the Atari and Commodore. But just like the computer versions, the game is played in near silence, with a few bleepy sound effects and snippets being the only audio, as the programmers couldn't be bothered to add any music to back up the action for whatever reason. Despite the ideas you might get from the intro text, no big boss or anything like that is waiting to confront you in the last room of the pyramid. Each level concludes with you simply leaping into this abyss at the bottom floor that leads right into the treasure vault. Here you have but a few seconds to grab whatever baubles you can and make your escape before the room closes in on you. Then you advance to the next tomb to do it all over again. You can choose from the first 6 difficulty levels to start on, and once you complete level 6, the 7th pyramid is unlocked, and so forth. There are 11 total levels, all of which actually take place in the same pyramid despite each one having a unique intro text, with each successive difficulty level modifying the layout slightly and adding a new wrinkle to further increase the challenge. The first 2 levels each block off the left and right half of the pyramid respectively, but from the 3rd level on, all 100 rooms are accessible. And the 2nd level introduces bats that appear if you tarry in a room too long and threaten to haul you off the screen, costing you a life. Later stages up the ante with burning ropes to climb, more floors which are cloaked in darkness, and even an invincible mummy that can slowly chase you down, even crossing between rooms. The last level, billed as the Tomb of Montezuma himself, is cloaked entirely in darkness except for the starting room. Sadly, the token changes with each difficulty doesn't change the fact that you're basically playing the same level over and over, which can start to feel repetitive if not boring before too long. If you're curious, there's no ending upon completing level 11. That level just repeats indefinitely until your last life expires. In the end, Montezuma's Revenge is a tough call. It doesn't really do anything wrong, and the gameplay and exploration it does offer works for what it is. If anything, it can be considered the definitive version of Mr. Jager's creation, as some of his ideas that didn't make it into the original computer versions were finally realized with this port. But at the same time, Montezuma is an old computer title trying to exist in a realm that has long left it behind. And this conversion leaves you feeling the programmers just went through the motions and could have done a lot more to help it not feel like such a relic of a bygone era. It certainly can't hold its own against the other 8-bit platformers on the NES or the Master System. So whether this card is actually worth your time all boils down to a matter of taste. Some may find Montezuma's Revenge a little too old school for their liking with its repetitive, no-frills action and frustrating deaths. Yet those who enjoyed the original, warts and all, or fans of older platformers or exploration games in general will find plenty to like here. Montezuma may be an antique, but still holds some value to those who seek it.